Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for Florida Shine's Virtual College Week. My name is Nashla Dewari, and I will be facilitating today's session, which is how to become a college athlete. Now, before I begin, I want to go over a few items with you. If you have questions, please put them in the chat section, and we will address them during the live Q&A or in a follow-up email at the end. Closed captioning is provided for this session, so you can click on the link provided in the chat box for you. Also, this session will be recorded, so the recording along with all materials shared today will be on our website at floridashines.org. And finally, we are live on Twitter, so feel free to share your comments and questions and connect with us at FL Shines. Now, we're excited to announce what's new this year. We are giving away swag bags to a few winners tonight as part of this session, and after the session, you will also receive a follow-up email with information about applying for a $1,000 scholarship. This scholarship is being awarded by the Florida Association of Educational Data Systems. We do want to thank them for their sponsorship, and we definitely want to encourage to apply if you are in this session today. Now, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Lonnie Alameda. Lonnie is starting her 11th season as the head coach of the Florida State softball program and has built the Seminoles into one of the nation's best teams during her decade here in Tallahassee, including winning the program's first NCAA National Championship in 2018. Lonnie has earned 5 ACC Coach of the Year honors in her 10 years at Florida State, and she received the NFCA National Coaching Staff of the Year accolades in 2018. Lonnie, so impressive. We are honored to have you with us today. We thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to be here.
Well, thank you very much. This is really exciting for me too, and this is going to be a first for me. I've never done this before, and I'm usually a face-to-face person, obviously, with coaching. So this is kind of fun for me, and I always like doing something new and add to my experience column, I guess. So thank you for this opportunity. Okay, so I think as I move into this, we are going to talk about what the next level is. And I'm just going to give you some inside look to some of the slides here that we go through. But I think the biggest thing is that you all research. That's the biggest part of it. And just as a college coach, the more informed parents and players are, the easier it is to find the right fit for people. And there's so many amazing opportunities out there. But the next level, so there's the NCAA, the NAIA, and junior college. And kind of crazy for me, I played my first year NAIA way back when, and then went to NCAA. So I've experienced both as a college athlete, but I've also experienced both as a coach too. So, you know, I think the biggest thing is when you look at the next level, there's many, many opportunities. We just see on TV a lot of the Division I and the NCAA. But I think that there's so many cool chances to grow as a person, as a student athlete through the NAIA opportunities or the junior college. So just research them all, research the state of Florida. We have so many colleges, big, small, you know, huge football, smaller schools with, you know, top 5 programs and, you know, whether it's field hockey or just things. So just so many cool chances. So I think that's the first thing is doing that. Then we look at how to be eligible for the next level. So as we go down and we think about eligibility part of it, and there's 2 areas here that we could click on the links, and you can look at the initial eligibility in the NCAA clearinghouse. But this is the first thing. So for parents and for young high school athletes, you know, out there thinking about this stuff, this is the research that you all need to do. So we as coaches have to have you signed up for the NCAA clearinghouse to go into the NCAA. And the clearinghouse is just a way to make sure that we're all legal in the student athletes that we're bringing onto our program. So you sign up on the website. You have to pay, but it gives us the ability, it gives the NCAA the ability to track you, to make sure that the transcripts are going to match up, that you actually are eligible with the graduating from high school, that you have your core classes, that you've taken your board scores, so it's the SAT or the ACT, and that your GPA, that you're eligible with your GPA and your board scores. Now, every school is going to be different in that part of it, and that kind of goes back to research, but that also goes to your questions when you visit the schools, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I think about if you can take care of these little things early and get this stuff done, then it opens up the ability to be pretty confident in the questions that you'll be asking later as you guys look into schools and where you want to go. So I think there's a resources tab you can click on here to go to the initial eligibility or the NCAA clearinghouse. It's pretty self-explanatory. The NCAA also has a website that you can go to and just ask tons of questions. They're really good about getting information, so I think that's great. So those are the two things that you guys can research pretty well. There's also the NAI. So the NAI is under its own regulations. There's the NCAA and then the NAI. And back in the day, it was the schools that didn't really have football, and but there's different opportunities there. You're not as limited as an athlete there in the NAI, and most of them don't have scholarships. Some do, some don't, but they have different regulations and different clearinghouse. So that's just another chance to look into them. And then the junior colleges. So both of these clips on here have links that you can look into. The thing with the junior colleges is there's no clearinghouse, but I would recommend, especially if you're looking to go play high level Division I and Division II academically, you've got to make sure that you're taking the classes at the junior college that will transfer into a four-year school. So if you don't have to worry about the clearinghouse and those kind of things getting into a junior college, you're going to have to still worry about them to get into a four-year school. So make sure that you research maybe where you want to go. You might be going to a junior college because you're not ready to leave home, or going to junior college to get maybe more games under your belt. So like in the game of baseball and softball, maybe you haven't completely developed yet and you want to go get 50, 60 games under your belt in a certain position, and then you get another year of experience before you go into college. But if you're not taking those classes that will transfer in and they won't be accepted at the four-year school, then it's a waste of time and a waste of your year of eligibility. So I think that's very important for you all to research on that part. We have amazing junior colleges in the state of Florida, so we're in a really good position to move you forward. You just want to make sure you have really good conversations with the coach and the academic advisor that would be guiding you through the classes that you would be taking. So the next one, we talk about the future, okay? So those are just kind of some ideas of research that you guys can do. And obviously the parents can do a lot of research, but, I think for the student athletes, it's the most important part because the more knowledgeable you are about where you want to go, the more invested you're going to be when you get there. And, we always like to, especially as coaches, we like to know that the kids are really caring about their future. And so, it's nice to have those conversations of why you chose the school you chose. So if we think about the future, that's the next thing for you after you get off high school opportunities and we get going to college. The process of it, it's never too early to start. Hopefully there's some younger high school kids here listening in or will be listening in to get online and research. There's so much good stuff out there online. And, it's just never too early to start to get that information. I will say it's one of the most important decisions, but it's probably the biggest decision for the student athletes or students in general in their lifetime, right? So this is the biggest decision you're going to make in your lifetime at this point. There's going to be bigger decisions down the line, and this college experience is going to help you make those bigger ones on jobs, life, and those kind of things. But this is going to be the biggest one to date for you. So that's where the research is going to come in quality. And if you research really well and you choose a school and it doesn't work out, at least you know you gave it the best effort. If you don't research and you choose a school and it doesn't work out, then you kind of second guess your process of getting there. And I think that's part of the learning lessons in life, is to go in and research and say, hey, this is going to be a fit for me. And and hopefully it is. And if it's not, then you find a reason why, and then you move on to the next opportunity. So I think prioritizing what's important to you personally. Your parents may think something's important that you don't think is important. We've had many student athletes, been around many students that have been managers in the program that They always did what the parents thought, and it truly wasn't their path. And if you don't find out what's really important to you and you don't prioritize that part, then you'll be treading water for a while. And if you're not passionate about what you're putting yourself into, then your experience is going to suffer, and you don't want that to be that part of it. School's tough enough, getting out on your own is tough enough, but you want to be inspired about what you're choosing to be a part of. So if you prioritize that and you think about that and you put yourself in that, I want to be a chemistry major, or I want to go into nursing, or I want to do something, and you jump into it, then it's somewhat, you're going to be able to fight through those long days and those labs and whatever it might be. So, and then, if you realize it's not a fit, then you move on to something else, but at least you had to prioritize it before you came into the school. So I think that part's important, because you'll jump in with 2 feet and you'll get after it. I think the other part of being a student athlete is the realistic part, like, are you actually being recruited? And we're going to talk about this a little bit later. I have a slide on this to discuss this a little bit later, but I think the reality of being recruited and recruiting is something that we can address and have a chat about. The next thing is the business to coaches. So as a student athlete, we're all hired to coach at some level and to produce something. Everybody as a coach signs up, and you're judged on your wins and losses. Depending on what level of school you're being hired at, you could be judged on graduation rate, or who knows what it is, but it's a business, and you have to look at it. There's an amazing part of being a part of a family in sport, but if I'm not doing my job, if I'm not doing my business correctly, then I'm not going to be kept on, and that's just life. So as the person looking to be a part of that business, you've got to make sure that you have good reality to what level you want to go to. The higher levels in the Power 5s, the top 25, the top 10s, there's not going to be a lot of room for mistakes and not a lot of room for missing on skill. Maybe the lower levels, there's a little more room for that miss, or a little more room for not being as serious about the sport. And I think that's the real talk that you and your families have to find out what level of commitment you want to give to the sport that you're going to. I think they're amazing no matter what you choose, but you just got to know how, the job side of it. It's a 24/7 decision for top 5 and Power 5. It may not be for a little bit lower level. What are you going to fit in, and where do you want to be? So since it's a business to me as a coach, and the coach it's still personal to you. And I think that is really important, that you make sure that you keep it personal and you keep your goals and your priorities in line, but realize that you're jumping into a business. Everyone can make it in the world as long as they keep their end goal and their why as a part of their vision. If they lose that personal side to it, then they get lost in the impersonal business side that the coaches do, and that creates unhappiness. And if you're an unhappy student athlete, that means you're going to be unhappy in school, which is going to reflect your grades, and that's really hard to manage all that. So I just think those are things to really look at, and I think that's a good conversation with parents and student athletes to have, and just be real with it. Everyone gets excited about the opportunity ahead, but then when you get into the grind of running and lifting every morning and practicing 3-4 hours a day and doing all that kind of stuff, the love might be gone for it, and you truly got to love it to be a part of the higher levels. But pretty amazing. So, I think that the eligibility side of it, so the NCAA has a pretty big side to making grades, and but if you don't make grades out of high school, there are other ways to get to your goals, and the junior college is one of them, and sometimes NAI is one of them too. So if there is the part of eligibility that you have messed up, it's not too late. Plenty of kids have gone different routes and made it happen. You just got to have a plan and be able to get after it. So that goes back to researching a little bit of your eligibility and what you need, and then knowing where you want to go. The preparation part for the future, we're talking about that right now. So whatever level you're at, if you're a 7th or 8th grader, awesome. If you're into your senior year, that's awesome too. Like, you're preparing yourself right now where you're at. The exposure side to it, something we can discuss later, but that's, are you playing club level, high school level, have you prepared videos, all that kind of stuff. The exposure is huge to get yourself out there. We're going to talk about recruitment side next. and the visits and the decisions. We'll talk about all that here in the future. But so that's a part of the preparation part. So now we go into the definition of what a recruit is. So we kind of get this a lot too. So the definition of a recruit, or recruiting in action, right? So the PSA, the prospective student athlete. Generally by NCAA rule, it's a student athlete in high school, but it can also be someone that you show interest in. Could be a prospective, so it could be a 7th grader or an 8th grader that you kind of see at camps or whatever that you have interest in. You know, they become a PSA. Anytime you're interested in a kid that has some talent, it becomes a PSA. There are different rules and regulations, but, you know, we're not allowed to do much until September 1 of the junior year. So there'll be different verbiage as we go along, but there are PSAs that September 1 of junior year, schools are emailing, contacting, offer visits to, pretty aggressive in the recruiting side of it. You know that we want you to come play for you. We're going to be talking scholarships. We're going to be talking stuff. Then there's the recruited walk-on. So walk-ons are looked at a little bit differently, but I think nowadays, you know, when you look at a sport like softball, we have 12 full scholarships, but we can break them up however we want. Where like football and basketball, they have scholarship, but their head count. So if you're on scholarship, you're on full no matter what. Where in softball, you could be on 20%, and someone else could be on 80, and someone else can be on 30. So it's called equivalency sport. So maybe I've given out my 12 scholarships for the year, but I still want you to come play for me. I'm recruiting you as a walk-on player. You're a non-scholarship player, but I want you on the roster on the team. That's a recruited walk-on. To me, that would be the same as the PSA, the kid that we're going after. Then there's the walk-on. So you know the school's offering walk-on tryouts. So you get admitted to the school, you come in, they have walk-on tryouts the second week of September. Our baseball program does that. They have walk-on tryouts. So, you know, 10, 15 guys go out there, they hit the ball around, they do some things. Maybe they keep a couple of guys for the fall season. So that would technically be a walk-on. They didn't recruit them to come in. They're already here, or the guys came here trying to make the team. Then there's club teams, and then sometimes they turn into managers. So I know sometimes people try to walk onto a team, don't make it, and they jump into being a managerial role. So they're still part of the squad, but they can't play. And I know many people that come in and don't make teams, and they go play in the club teams, and they love it. So there's kind of some different ways in the definition of a recruit. I think the biggest thing that people get confused about is the walk-on part, that there's actually, you could recruit someone to be a part of your team and not offer scholarship money. But then there's also the walk-on that just rolls in. Hey, I'm already in school. I've been here 2 weeks. Is there tryouts? I want to be a part of it. And I think if you're very interested in the school and you want to walk on to a team, you've got to tell them early, because maybe they don't even hold the tryouts. So that would be something you'd write down in your notes to contact coaches when you get there to their school, or if you happen to visit them. Hey, do they offer walk-on tryouts? Is it somewhere on their Twitter feed? Is it somewhere on their website that they actually offer walk-on tryouts and have kids made the team with walk-on tryouts? So every sport is a little bit different in their culture of how they do things. You know, football has a ton of walk-ons. They wouldn't be able to work without walk-ons, but football also has a limited amount of scholarships, and they're all head count. They don't break it up any way possible. Baseball breaks it up. Softball breaks it up. Basketball is head count. So just educate yourself a little bit in the culture of your sport, and, you know, the things that you want to get out of it and the questions you need to ask when you go on these campuses. So when you talk about recruiting a school, recruiting a school that's fit for you, there's a couple of things that I think are really important when you're looking at schools that are the fit for you. Of course, we all get excited about playing the high-level sport, but the reality is 99% of us are there to get an education, and your education is going to be affected by your well-being. So if you don't find the academic fit for you first, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but, you know, your 4-year decision is going to affect your 40-year career. You make so many contacts and you get so many experiences in college. The more you look into it and you figure out the academic side of it first, all things will fall into place after that. But that's really got to be a primary. I just think if you look at a school and think that maybe you tore your ACL the very first weekend you were playing and you couldn't play anymore, would you stay at that school? And if you're lucky enough to find a school that you'd stay at and a sport program that you enjoy and can flourish in, you're in a win-win. And that part is huge. So the campus fit, that's a big part of, again, being, I would call them a happy camper, right? You want to be a happy camper. Like, you want to make sure that you enjoy being in the city, you enjoy being in the country, you enjoy being in a small school, you want to be at a bigger school. We get, the comments all the time, I want to be at a football school, I mean, are those really priorities to you? And, are they the kind of the moment thing, or are they priorities? And, do you like to be at a campus that's small and you can walk around it, or do you want to drive from building to building? It's one thing to visit a school and kind of endure it for a weekend, but think about being there for 3 months or 4 years. Do I want to drive everywhere? Do I walk places? Do I want to be in a little smaller community? How far away from home do I want to be? I think the campus fit, is pretty imperative to how you want to grow for the next 4 years. And then, one of the most frustrating things is finances, right? So if you don't have those good conversations early on about the financial fit, that can really be frustrating throughout your college, career. So, what is the financial fit? Be very honest with that, especially student athletes that you have a chance to maybe earn a scholarship. Like, the scholarship doesn't have to be a full ride. We'll talk a little bit about the Bright Futures and some other financial opportunities, but if you know as a family and you can sit down and you kind of know where the money is at for the next couple of years, and you just need to get a 20% or a 10% or a 50%, and it's the right fit for you, and you're going to develop as a young man or woman in the next 4 years in this college experience, then you're going to be a lot happier and grow as a person if you just take the scholarship offer or just try to find a place that you want to play sport at and don't worry about anything else. The other things are going to affect you at some point in time. I think the other part of it, too, is as a coach in recruiting student athletes, it's very important to know that your players are happy with where they're at and the environment where they're at, because that's going to affect your game. So whether it's on the court, in the sand, on the field, wherever it's at, like, your surrounding area and your environment is going to affect you as a ball player and your ability to continue to grow. And so it's very important that we know as coaches that you fit and you're going to grow in the program. So as we're recruiting and we're in the process and we're talking about it, and you find out, like, wow, this is a really good academic fit and financially it's going to work out, and they absolutely love being in the city, or they love being closer to home, or whatever it may be, we know that's going to relate to you developing as a pretty good student athlete. I think some helpful hints of that is to ask lots of questions, especially if you guys get a chance to go on some visits. There isn't one question that's a dumb question. We've been asked all kinds of questions, campus tours, other players that have played there. The more research you can do, the better you're going to be by the time you decide where you want to go. So all kinds of questions, and there's so many online sites of people giving off information. But keeping notes, I think that's another great thing. Write things down. Write things down that you really liked about some visits, about some places. Write some things down that you weren't so sure of. Then go back to your notes when you go to another school, because sometimes it's like walking into a new house or a new area the first time, and the red carpet's rolled out and everything's exciting, but you go back again and again and again, and you start to see things that you didn't see before. The same thing with notes. As you write things down, you go back and you're like, oh, I forgot about this, or oh, I should ask this question. Meal plans, housing, do I have to live on campus? Parking, can I bring my car my freshman year? Some schools you can't bring your car your freshman year. Is that a big deal to you or not? Meal plans are a big one. Do I have to eat in the cafeteria all the time? Do I have a meal card that can take me everywhere? As a student athlete, do I have to come back early? Do I have to stay late? Am I just here the academic year? Just all kinds of things, because every school is a little bit different, and then it helps you weigh, kind of what's important to you when we go back to the prioritizing part of it. So I also think it's very helpful to take more than one visit and make sure you visit more than one school. I think that people get really excited and they can get blown away by one visit. And you could want to, this is a school I want to go to, I want to commit, I want to be a part of this. But if you truly want to find out where you want to go, you go visit other places, and then those places aren't exactly what you wanted, then you know. But if you don't go visit other schools, you never know. So I think that's very important, is to make sure you take a couple more visits to some other places, and you go back and visit the place that you really wanted to go, maybe at a different time of the year, different seasons, maybe not during a football game or not during a parents' weekend, and just get a feel for the up times and the down times. Again, you're going to be there for 4, possibly 5 years. Just really get a good feel for where you're going to be at. So, in choosing the right fit, like I said before, it's a 40-year decision, not just a 4-year decision. So students that really want to jump in and get the most out of the university, which I'm assuming would be people that would be listening to this. Like, if you're listening to this already, or you have questions, or you're researching, like, you're invested in your future and you're curious about what it's to be a student athlete. So you're already kind of the next level person. You're the 2%ers we talk about. So if you're that person already, then when you get to school, you're going to jump into a lot of situations that are going to help you develop you as a person. So that's going to make your connections pretty big time for you as you leave school. So your 4 years is going to affect your career and your life decision. So that's pretty amazing. Being able to grow as a person and as an athlete. So for some of you that have the chance to go on and think that you're going to play Major League Baseball or NFL or high level, whatever it is, you still have to grow as an athlete, and you still have to grow as a person. So is the place you're going to actually grow you? Do you know kids that went in as freshmen? What are they like as juniors and seniors? What are their experiences like? Where have a lot of the recruits come from? There's just like so many cool things that can really get you to grow as a person that's a part of the university that's maybe just not the athletic department. And I think that's really, really important. You could be at the highest level of your game. You could be the best of the best of the best. The next level you go to, you're going to still have to grow and get better. Most kids that are amazing in high school playing softball still have to learn how to play the collegiate game at a high level. When they leave here and they go play professional softball, they still have to learn how to be a professional in professional softball. There is learning at all levels, and you have to learn as an athlete and as a person to handle both those. So really take that, advice to seeing, what the kids do after they leave the program. So, and like I said before, consider the school minus the sport. The sport can be really exciting, and it can fulfill you for a while. But there's going to be other downtime, too, that's very important. And, again, you want to be pretty satisfied with your decision all the way around. So take all those things in, note them, and really try to understand that part of it. So I think the post-high school with or without sports, this is the one thing that, I coached many years at Stanford, too, and there's quite a few academic schools and opportunities. But you have to finish strong. I know especially now our interest here at Florida State's huge. If you don't finish strong, you could lose opportunities for not only admissions to where you want to go to, but the ability to maybe get some academic aid or apply for certain scholarships that can help you get to your dream school. And we talked about earlier the equivalency part of it. If I only have 20% left to offer you, or baseball only has 10% left to offer, but you can fill the rest by a Bright Futures or maybe Elks Lodge scholarship, that's awesome to get your dream. But then your senior year, you don't finish strong, and then you lose out on some Bright Futures money, and then where are you? So finish strong, stay guided to what you want. Keep that why in the vision, because that's huge for the financial opportunity. The FAFSA, the financial aid, if you go on the FAFSA website, the parents can fill out and see how much you qualify for financial aid. Pell Grants, you just never know. Might as well do it. You never know. Every school is a little bit different with it's called the SAOF Fund, the Student Athlete Opportunity Fund. So when you actually get to college, every school may have an SAOF fund, but if you've not filled out the FAFSA or done the Pell Grant stuff, if you haven't done any of that, then you don't have the chance to earn any of that SAOF money. And, every little bit helps. So, again, just completing everything out. Don't get that senioritis. Don't pack it all in. I've had many players their senior year. Coaches leave programs that they were committed to, and now they're going somewhere else, but they didn't finish out their senior year strong. So now they're really limited in their opportunities of where they can go. And just don't take that senioritis too serious to make sure that you get serious about it and finish it out. So, and then complete all applications. There's so many really good other financial opportunities out there in the community, in the state of Florida. So the Bright Futures is one of them, and it's incredible, and it does great things here. But like I said, there's other chances within your small town communities or bigger town communities to apply for things. And, $500 scholarship here, $1,000 there really helps out. So if you student athletes get aggressive with that part of it, you can really set yourself up for a good position when you get to college. So that's all I have for you all. I will try to help with some questions here that I can get from you and help out. If not, I'm sure that I know that the people online can help me get those to you too. So, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Lonnie, thank you so much. I love that message that you ended with, to finish strong, and it's good to know that students have options, be able to prepare, to really become eligible, look at their options, just many reasons to get started early so they have plenty of time to consider all their options, because this is a big decision. They have a lot of things to consider. So thank you for that message and for all the information you shared with us. We do have some questions, so if you don't mind, we will go over them and try to address as many as we can from our audience. Lonnie, our first one is related to something you mentioned earlier. Can you talk a little bit more about club teams and what happens if you realize that college sports aren't necessarily for you? Are there other methods of playing sports in college, even if you decide to not be in a college team?
Yeah, I think there are tons of club organizations. We have a very competitive field hockey lacrosse organization here. They do sometimes it seems like they practice more than what we see us do sometimes, but really getting after it. Again, research every school. When you go online, there's the school's website, there's the athletic department websites, and within the schools, there's always the club programs, intramurals, those kind of things. So you can check those out. I know that there's early on when I got here 10 years ago, we did have tryouts, and kids that didn't make the team via tryouts would always go to the club team and play, and they did a great job. So I think that's a huge opportunity. And what it is most kids that really played in high school and loved playing, but they can't compete at the level of the school that they're at, then they join in and they play the club sport. So it's out there, and it's pretty much on everyone's website to be able to take advantage of that. And I would recommend it. I think it's awesome.
Thank you. So good to know that they have options there. Lonnie, another question, what is the best way for students that are looking at recruitment, what is the best way to be seen? Is it the Perfect Game events or college camps, any other recommendation? And then in terms of recruitment, does the high school coach usually handle the recruiting, or is that something that the student really needs to be responsible for?
So the best way to be seen, and I think it depends sport by sport, but I'm going to tell you, getting on college campuses, if you're serious about the school and where you want to go, to get on campus and go to a camper clinic is one of the best ways. Like, you're right in front of us. We can have conversations. We can't have recruiting conversations at the camps or clinics, but, we can get to know you and we can get to know your skill set. When you get into your junior year, now football is a little bit different, but for most of the other sports, we're all the same. All the Olympic sports, we're all the same. So when you get to your junior year, that's when we can start recruiting you. So if you've been coming to camps and you see yourself at the same level, you're September 1, you're going to have a conversation with the coaching staff that you're going to see quite a bit and visit quite a bit. So, the higher level the program is of college, probably the higher level of club sport, you would expect to see them play. We're top 10 softball program in the country. We're out recruiting top 10 softball athletes around the country. Those are kids that are playing all summer long on club teams. Do we recruit high school? Yes. Football does high school. Baseball does high school. They still do some club stuff here and there in their connections. So I think that, you keep working the higher to get to the higher stuff. The conversations through the high school coaches and recruiting, we are not, again, allowed to do things, and that's all on the NCAA website. You guys can find that there and researching that part of it. But we cannot contact and have conversations about recruiting until September 1 of the junior year. So even with high school coaches and club ball coaches, we can't call and say, hey, I'm really interested in Susie, who's your freshman. We would invite camp, but September 1, we could call the high school coach and be like, okay, we're interested in this kid, and start talking the recruiting process. And so I think that's a big one. High school coach, club ball coach, alumni. There's been so many alumni that call back. It's crazy how it works, as you get down into juniors and seniors of kids working there. But I would recommend doing the camp or clinic thing. I think that's a pretty awesome opportunity. Not only do you get to see what the coaches are like, but you also get to see what the players are like, because most players work the camps and clinics, and be able to ask questions to them.
Good. Thank you, Lonnie. So thank you for that recommendation, and a good way to make that connection there, like you said, at least to be seen. So the other question, Lonnie, is related to eligibility. Can you transfer from NAIA to NCAA?
Yep. So I actually was an NAIA athlete that went to the University of Oklahoma, and I transferred in. So the biggest thing is to be able to meet the requirements to get to the NCAA. So when I was talking a little bit about junior college, and NAIA to me would fit right into that, is when you become an NCAA athlete, you have to go to the clearinghouse. You have to register in the clearinghouse, and you have to make sure that when you register, you have all your board scores, your SAT, ACT, those kind of things taken care of. You have met all your requirements for undergraduate, or for high school. So your math, your English, your foreign languages, all that kind of stuff has been taken care of. And then any classes that you've taken in a junior college or any classes you've taken in NAIA would transfer in. And the ones that wouldn't transfer in, then you would becoming an eligible player to transfer in, or you'd be a player that needs certain classes, and you'd be able to tell that, or you could find out the school that you're going to if they'd accept certain classes. So I think when you're in the transfer process, every school is a little bit different. Some schools would take some classes, some schools don't take some classes in their requirements of getting into the school. So that's where you've got to maybe research the school that you're going to. If I'm looking at Florida Gulf Coast or I'm looking at UNF, I have to get on and see what it takes to the requirements to get into UNF and, what I want to go in as. So if I'm going in as a freshman, or maybe I'm transferring in as a sophomore, sometimes when you transfer in as a sophomore, most schools you already have to have classes towards your degree credits. And so maybe you have to take some junior college classes. The kicker is for you guys on transfers is if you've played eligibility. So the minute you all start playing in AI or you play junior college, you started your clock. So as a student athlete, you get 5 years to play 4 years of eligibility. So if I jump in and I come right out of high school and I play a junior college, I've already played 1 year of eligibility. If I go to a junior college and do not play sports, my clock's already started. So my 1 year started, but I still have 4 years left. So you kind of have to think about what you're doing. Are you playing, not playing? how do my classes transfer over? Sometimes it can kind of be crazy, especially at those junior colleges if you're not taking classes. Like, again, if you're taking basket weaving over and over again, that's not going to apply to something to get into school. You've got to make sure you're taking your math and your chemistries and those things that are going to be able to apply to get you into degrees, the progress towards the degree that you need to transfer into the school.
Lonnie, thank you so much. So lots of things to consider. Another question along with eligibility, and I know you reiterated this in your message, and you mentioned being a student athlete, so you're a student first. But can you talk to our audience about are there academic standards or GPA requirements if you are an athlete, and I'll say a student athlete?
Yeah. So if you dip below a 2.0 while you're at school, you can become an ineligible player. So you have to keep your GPA at a certain, and it's not the semester GPA, it's the year-long GPA. So sometimes kids can take classes during the summer or things to boost their GPA so they're eligible to play. But yes, there are academic requirements to actually be eligible to play sports. You have to take so many classes. You have to take your 12 credits. You can't dip down below that. So you have to make sure that you're taking your classes during your semesters, so you can have the eligibility side while you're at the school to be able to compete and play. Yes.
Yeah, very important. So lots of rigorous things to think about. Lonnie, I'll go back to recruitment. A question related to recruitment. As a coach, do you work closely with recruiting companies like CSA Prep Star or others?
We do not, but that doesn't mean that that's not an opportunity for people. So this is kind of how I always talk about the recruiting process, and it's different for other sports too. If you think about football, they are in season while they are recruiting at the same time. So, they might have a different process of how they gather information. But I always think about, every one of you can email. Every one of you can do a mom and pop video in the backyard, right? So every one of you can get yourself out there on the internet with a YouTube link or whatever it might be. We could see you because you could email us that information, whether it's lacrosse or basketball. Like, you can get a video, just put it on your phone, email it, send it. We can't respond to anything, but you can give us a ton of information as you want. That's free. You guys can do that part of it. The next level, is to get after your high school team, get into a club program, what level club team you want to go to, how much money you have as a family to spend to get to that next level. Some club teams are inexpensive. Some you're traveling all over the country. What is the financial burden on your family at that point? Then the next thing to me and the last thing would be getting a recruiting company. We've never used them, but that doesn't say that there's coaches that don't use them. If you can financially afford it and it's something that gets you in front of someone, then that's awesome. But I think that there's a lot of work on the front side that you as a family can do and you guys can do that could save some money for down the line.
Lonnie, so definitely good to know about the budget piece, considering the budget piece is important. Lonnie, I'll ask one more question, and that's related to timeline from our audience. You talked about in your presentation starting as early as possible. It's never too early to get started. So a student looking at having graduated from high school already and going into their summer after graduation, is it too late for them to start looking at camper clinics or other options and consider being a student athlete? And is there a time that it's too late for them?
So I think if you think about this, and we're going to go back to the business seat, correct? So I am a softball coach that's hired to win ball games at a high level. I know where I'm at. I know what to do. That's the business side, correct? So how far down the line do I go start recruiting to fulfill my ability to do that? So, by the junior year, I'm really starting to make sure that I can make offers to fill this role. Sometimes as you get to lower levels, or maybe people aren't as held accountable to certain things and with wins and losses, they may have more opportunity. And so, when you're looking at that as a senior in high school right now, your opportunities may be smaller for scholarship money. But that doesn't mean that you can't go somewhere and develop for a year and then give yourself another chance to put yourself in a position for maybe a more competitive environment. The other thing you can do too is say you're a late bloomer, which totally happens. So all of a sudden, maybe you're a really tall kid and you just ruined your body, or maybe you played 3 or 4 sports and then, all of a sudden kind of got after basketball or lacrosse or, I don't know, volleyball, and you got pretty good at it your senior year. Maybe you can go to a program and say, hey, I can come here for a year or 2. Can I earn money down the line? If I show up, can I earn money down the line? Then there's that real talk, and like I developed late, you don't have scholarship money now, but maybe later that can open up. That's a legit conversation, and I think that that's been had by a lot of coaches and has been well received by a lot of coaches too.
Thank you, Lonnie, so much for sharing this information. Lots to think about and lots to consider, but again, I think if the student gets started early, they can plan ahead and be successful in this process. So very exciting. And again, thank you for this information. If you don't mind, Lonnie, I just want to share a couple other questions related to our giveaway and scholarship with our audience. So we do want to let you know that by joining us today, you have been entered to win a swag bag from our Florida colleges and universities. So we will be drawing names at the end of the night tonight, and we will announce the winners on all of our social media. So follow us at FL Shines on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And again, that's FL Shines, and good luck to all of you entering. After this session, you will also receive information via email with details about applying for a $1,000 scholarship. So be on the lookout for that email. It'll give you all the details you need. So Lonnie, on behalf of the Florida Shines team here, I do want to thank you so much. I know your schedule is really busy, so I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to share your expertise and your knowledge with us today. So thank you so much.
No, thank you. This is great. And look, there's another opportunity to win some money. That's good stuff. So that's really cool. Thank you all so much.
Yes, thank you. So this concludes our last webinar of the evening. Thank you all for joining us today, and we will be back tomorrow with 2 more sessions, one on the FAFSA, how to fill out the FAFSA, and all about scholarships and Bright Future. So if you're interested in those topics, join us tomorrow for our webinars as well. So thank you again for joining us. Have a good night.